Hey folks, Matt here from Single Tracks.
Chris here from Single Tracks.
And today we're here with another trail bike review for our roundup. Today we've got the Ibis Ripley AF. So Ibis debuted the Ripley AF this winter in January as sort of a more affordable alternative to the carbon fiber Ripley. The Ripley AF, it's got 120 millimeters of rear travel with a 130 millimeter fork. Aluminum frame, we've covered that. And then of course, DW Link suspension. It comes in just a little bit over 32 pounds, so gained some weight obviously from the carbon fiber Ripley. So the AF also gets more aggressive geometry. On the geometry front, you've got a 65.5 degree head tube angle, 76 degree seat tube angle. On our size medium, we've got a 450 millimeter reach. Wheelbase on the medium is 1188 millimeters. Chainstays are 432 millimeters, and that's across all sizes. And seat tube length on the medium is 381 millimeters. So the build kit we got was the Shimano SLX 12-speed build kit. It retails for $4,100. That's the highest level build kit that Ibis sells on the Ripley AF. Ibis, like other brands, have been running out of parts during the pandemic, and so the build that we have is not an exact representation. Ibis is having to do this with some shops as well. They said they've been trying to substitute up, so replace with an upgrade basically for free if they don't have the part that is available on that specific build kit. So as you mentioned, it's got Shimano SLX 12-speed group set. We've also got Shimano 2-piston brakes, a KS dropper post. Part spec on this one says it would usually be bike yoke revive. This one, we've got KS. You'd also usually get Maxxis Minion DHRs in the rear, DHF up front. And this one we've got Schwalbe Hans Stomps, front and rear, 2.6 inch wide. For suspension, you've got Fox Performance, rear and front. And then you've got an OEM Ibis cockpit. So we'll get into our riding impressions a bit. Chris, I know you like this bike. I think the first thing you texted me after your first ride on it was that you would just straight up swap your Ritmo for it.
Yes, so I'm familiar with the Ibis brand. I've had 4 at this point. Currently I'm riding a Ritmo, and when I got on this bike I was like, holy cow, give me this bike right now. Is it for sale? It probably isn't because everything's out of stock, but it is a dream boat. It's so fast, it climbs so well. It's the perfect, even though I'm 5'5", which is about the smallest person that could ride a medium, I still feel like the reach isn't too long. I'm sitting in the bike, I'm part of the bike, and overall I love this bike.
What were your main takeaways as far as like how the Ripley AF climbed?
So in terms of climbing, it almost felt like it wanted to go uphill. Like I was just there along for the ride. It was super snappy, super easy. I love the tires that they spec'd on this, even though they're supposed to be the Minions. I really love these Hans Stomps for the small little, I don't know, call it kitty litter. Just generally speaking, this bike wants to go uphill, and I am here for that.
DW Link obviously has like a certain reputation, and it performed really well on this bike too, where you get kind of that platform feeling suspension, but it's also really, really sensitive. So it's efficient, and yet, you know, if you're charging up some rocky, loose trail, it tracks excellent. The other cool thing about the AF is that typically, you know, DW Link you would find on Pivot or Ibis, and generally those are carbon bikes that are starting at $5,000.
Yeah.
And so again, just really cool that you can pick up one of these starting at like low 3.
Yeah, and even though it is a little bit heavier, this felt incredibly light to me, especially uphill. It's about the same weight as some of the other bikes we've tested, and possibly a little bit heavier in some instances, but this felt like it weighed 25 pounds going uphill, going downhill even. So I really appreciated that. It was less of a slug to go uphill. It was just so snappy and on it. I couldn't say enough good things about the uphill capabilities of this bike.
All right, going downhill. Chris, what did you make of the Ripley AF on the descents?
Similar opinion. Still loved it. That's the number one takeaway. A couple things. They did increase the wheelbase just a little bit on the AF, which was awesome and made it feel extremely stable, along with that slacker head tube angle. Again, just a tad, and it made it feel great on fast, even loose downhills. The extremely short seat tube is an awesome bonus because you can This is, I believe, a 150 dropper, and you could make it even bigger. So get that seat completely out of the way. The one thing I would say is not that this bike can't do it all, because it absolutely can. But when you are in that rockier, chunkier section of trail, you do have to think a little bit more about where you're placing your tires, choosing your lines a little differently, unlike something like a Ripmo, where I just point it downhill and say, good luck.
The suspension obviously has its limitations. It's only 120 mil with a 130 mil fork, but it still rides really well. Like, I felt very confident going into trails that are above the Ripley AF's weight class. You can get it into pretty gnarly terrain without really worrying about being thrown off. Overall, nothing really bad to say about it as far as its descending performance. So let's talk about the build kit a little bit. No problems on the Shimano SLX. Obviously, like, we would prefer the bike yoke Revive in place of the KS on here. Bike yoke is just a great dropper post in general. Mostly my nitpick is how the dropper post is routed. The way the cables are routed down near the bottom bracket also make it for a tricky situation to mount a bottle inside the frame. All right, Chris, who do you think the Ibis Ripley AF is made for? Who's gonna like it, and what trails is it best on?
Okay, I think everyone would love this bike. It depends on what your price point is, of course, but in terms of suspension, I think it's the right amount for most everyone for most every type of trail. I have a 160, 145 bike currently, and I would almost swap that out straight up for this one. It performs just as well on almost every trail I've ridden. It's lighter, it's faster, it climbs well, it descends well. I really have nothing terrible to say about it.
Yeah, it's a great all-arounder considering it's on the shorter end of the travel spectrum for 120 millimeters. But again, it just does everything so well. Like, I've already had friends who are in the market for a new bike, and like, get this.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You're not, again, the SLX build, a little over $4,000. It's still kind of a jump for some people. Like, you can get a better build kit from a direct-to-consumer brand for that amount of money. You're not going to get the DW Link suspension, which is a really strong selling point for this bike, I think. It's so approachable and comfortable to ride on initially. It's just it's an easy bike to get along with, and an easy one to enjoy on almost everything.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. Thanks for watching our review on the Ibis Ripley AF. If you want to get more details, more photos of the bike, check out the written review on singletracks.com. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more reviews. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the trails.